Hello, this is Dr. Deb Watry giving you an update for weeks 2 and 3 and hopefully some good ideas and additional information. Very quickly on week 1, I thought you had great ideas for topics in that assignment 1.2. They were very thoroughly developed. You had good consideration of accessibility and time and feasibility factors. So I'm very, very confident in the writing that you're going to be able to do for this class. Week 2 review, the article critiques, there's 2 of them, and the bibliography entries, also 2 of them. That comes in as one assignment, and that's assignment 2.2. And this process of this week, you should be collecting your research articles for your thesis topic. Remember that you would want a few general topic ideas, but then narrow it down to more specific ideas. And there's a question about how many topics or how many articles that you do need. And if you've been reading through some sample master thesis, I encourage you to take a look at their reference page. A number of them have 10 or more references, and I think that's the recommendation that Boy talks about when you're writing your master thesis. How many resources should you have? So generally, as you're reading ahead into chapter, I believe it's chapter 5, writing that introduction, she talks about having 3 focus areas. And so generally you would want 3 to 4 references, resources that would fit in each area and 2 general. So generally I tell students try to seek out 12 to 15 research articles for your use. You might not use them all, but it's kind of a good number to be working for. As you're organizing your articles, some things to help you with organizing those research articles. You may want to number them. I used the alphabetical system of numbering them so I could organize them better, and when I was writing about them in my paper, I could just insert that letter, whether it was the A, B, C resource, so I wouldn't always have to put the general information. I knew then that I had to go back in and put that author's name in there. Your city training should be coming in. I noticed there are about 6 of them already that have been posted, so thank you. Continue reading through some sample master thesis, because this gives you a good idea of how does that introduction organized, what are the parts to each part of a thesis, and it gives you a good idea. I know I've read through about 4 of them myself already to get a kind of a good sampling of the writing style. So when you're posting in that discussion for this week, it's not just your initial post. You do need to be responding back to other people's in the post and giving some good ideas. As we take a look at looking at week 3 work, I just want to try to get you ahead. You're going to continue collecting your research, your data, your articles for your topic, and I already talked about a method of organizing them. So print those out. You want to make sure that you save the references, and perhaps you're a person that would like to read it all online and keep it in a electronic folder. That's fine also, but the printed one you can highlight and organize and section out as you're doing your reading. Chapter 5, as you're reading ahead, they have good organization tips in our chapter reading. That ladder strategy, I'm going to encourage you to use it for your your thesis development, because we break it down into 3 focus areas, and then your research you're going to try to fit into those 3 focus areas. We already talked about having a number of articles so that you're set to go with your research. You can always go back and find articles to support what you're trying to intend to investigate. So just keep that in mind, and I already talked about organizing your research. In week 3, you do your introduction, which is the chapter 1 of your thesis, and that's why I've been encouraging you to read other sample master thesis. So follow the directions about how many page numbers. Citations are very important. In this writing of your chapter 1, start your reference page, because as you're putting those sources into your writing, you need to have, it has to be a perfect match. What you cite in your thesis has to be listed in your reference page. So you can't put anything in your reference page that you haven't cited in your paper, and you can't leave anything off of your reference page that you cite in your paper. And the last thing I have for you for next week is to start looking ahead at that IRB proposal, because that's due in week 5. But there's some things you need to do ahead of time, so you want to take a look at that. So just a little bit of information about that IRB proposal. And remember, I've already announced to you that this has to go in early just because of when the IRB committee meets. So the director of this program informed me that we're under a short time schedule. So our IRB form is due the week of April 22nd. So think about, do take a look at that, of what you're going to need to put together. For one of the things they talk about is who's your advisor for this. And of course, you'd put my name in. The start date is another thing in that IRB form. You can't put any and do start collection of data. You can write chapters 1, 2, and 3, but you can't start collecting data on your students until, or your other people that you're dealing with, maybe they're not students, until after your IRB is approved by the committee, and they're meeting the first week in May. Okay, so you want to keep that in mind. So it says, what's your start date? I'm putting in May 7th probably is a good date to start. In your IRB form, they ask that you put in, as an appendix, copies of your samples, your letter of permission letters, your data, your assessments, the participants, any survey instruments. So that's why I wanted you to look ahead of what has to go into that IRB form to decide, and think about what are some things I can already start working on. Okay, so that's very important too. So please do email me if you have questions. I think you're off to a great start. I'm very impressed with your work and really happy to be working with you. So have a good day. Looking forward to reading your week 2 and 3 information and assignments.